All right, I don't know if the cold weather is going to interrupt the stream, but if it does, I'm going to move the position. I'm Gary Lucas. Today is Tuesday. Here we go again. It's February 9th, 2021, all day. It's 3 p.m. here, and I will play for you and chat a little bit. It's one of those days. It's kind of misty and gray. It was supposed to be snowing. I kind of would have preferred it to snow as they promised. I'm moving because I think the extreme cold well below zero is not going to work. So here we go. Another angle in a warmer climate. That's better. And anyway, so, I've just watched the opening impeachment argument, and yes, I feel like crying. I mean, the lead impeachment manager for the Democrats, Raskin, broke down in recounting the deaths of many police officers, and to me, hitherto not revealed information. Many suffered brain injuries, severe trauma, loss of fingers, besides several who committed suicide in January 6th event. And it is so disquieting. And then to hear that many Republican members in the House there turned away, averted their eyes when they showed some of the most violent footage that they'd assembled to first advance the case at the beginning. They just don't want to know. And this, I get it. I understand it. I understand people whose basic instinct would be to hold on to their power, which they think, the long arm of Donald Trump is going to remove from them if they dare vote to impeach her and convict him. But it is very strong meat, and I hope everybody tries to view it at least once and share it with your friends and enemies, even including people who disagree that Trump should have been impeached, because to me it's incontrovertible evidence that he instigated this. And anyway, I'll just get on right now to the music. That's a medley of some music. That first number is called No One Must Find You Here, and that is an instrumental version of a song I recorded live with Jeff Buckley a couple of times, but never came out officially. I hope it will one of these days, so you can hear his marvelous voice on it. And the second one is something I wrote going back previous to working with Jeff, and at that time it had a title whose name escapes me, but I gave this music to Peter Hamill, great English prog rock psychedelic artist, for an album that we collaborated on called Otherworld a couple of years ago. And there it's called This is Showbiz. And truer words were never spoken. These are Peter's lyrics, but you should seek this out because he's a great artist, and always, fun to hear what he's up to on his own. But I think this was a really good meeting of minds, which we did in Bath, England, where my pal Reuben Miles Ty lives, who is an old friend now, who's been working hard on doing publicity in the UK for the essential Gary Lucas. Okay, you knew I would get around to this, didn't you? What a sneaky guy. But, okay, here it is. It's a very sumptuous package if you're into, actually holding a physical object while listening to music. I think it's a good one. Maybe it'll even, improve with age as in a vinyl version. We will see. I hope so. Or let's say a new version of this. But it's out now. It just has been out, I guess it'll be a week to Friday. And it's really burning up the charts in my mind. No, it's really doing fine, from what I gather, because there's been a demand, and many of you, people who tune in, pre-ordered this thing, and so I'm getting really lots of love back from you guys. Thank you, everybody who did that and who are doing this now. Maybe it's winging its way to you, and it will arrive imminently. I hope so. Because I tried to load it with what I thought was the cream of the crop. But like anybody, who produced a lot of work, it was really tough to make decisions as to what should be on there, what could be on there, what could go on there with the minimum of back and forth. And unfortunately, there is nothing from Otherworld on there, though I think it is one of the best records I ever did in collaboration. So, yeah, please, check that one out. But meanwhile, this thing is like there are a bunch of clips that are floating around, and some of the songs I already had clips for. I've got to post them all, and I will, I think, Friday. I've got a new batch of press I want to, send out. Good reviews. One came in today from the premier rock magazine of Holland, Oor magazine, which is Dutch for ear magazine. It's kind of the Rolling Stone of Holland. And early in my career, about 1989, 90, I started to tour there solo. Holland was, I'm sorry, it's not technically the Netherlands. I like them both, but let's get, up to date here. The Netherlands was the first territory that took to my music in a major way. Basically, how that came about was I started to play in 90 at the Knitting Factory in New York, which was then on Houston Street. It was, a little bit of a second-story loft. It had once upon a time, I think, been an actual factory with seamstresses working in there on garments or, all sorts of fabrics. And it was taken over by a couple of guys from Milwaukee, Michael Dorff and two other friends of his, Bob Appel, and I'm blanking on the third one, but I will remember because he's a great guy. Anyway, they were looking to promote a group of friends, a band called Swamp Thing. Good name, right? And they couldn't find any venues that would invite them to play. So, kind of like Andy Hardy and Mickey Rooney. I mean, if you know these Andy Hardy movies, it was like, well, let's build our own venue, which they did. They acquired this space, and once it opened its doors, it flourished. It became like the epicenter of cool music in Manhattan, if not the five boroughs. It had some, predecessors there. I can think my friend Verna Gillis, who was early on managing me early in my career, had a wonderful joint up near Times Square, or Hell's Kitchen, called Soundscape, that presented a lot of cool music. And there were kind of various pop-ups, but this one stuck in a big way. Got a lot of press, and then it was a magnet for new music lovers from all over the world. And they not only presented avant-garde jazz, which was their main kind of calling card when they opened, vis-a-vis John Zorn and some of the other downtown music, as they say, pioneers, but they put on avant-garde rock, and they had some mainstream or borderline mainstream rock, like The Church from Australia, I know, did an acoustic set there. I know their singer Steve Kilbey pretty well, as he was in my tribute to Tim and Jeff Buckley, called State of Grace Down Under a few years ago. But, I posted a poster last night, you can see on the timeline, that was taken. It was a photo by my old friend Ricky Powell, who called himself the Rickster, who's a legendary character from the scene in New York, and he just passed away. I was shocked to hear this. I'm so sorry. I got to dedicate this particular show to Ricky. And how I met him is very peculiar, but anyway, years ago I may have mentioned I worked as a copywriter for CBS Records, biding my time, waiting around for my shell to crack. And somewhere in the mid-'80s, I think, I was having lunch on the corporation. This is one of the perks if you get these media jobs, particularly the record industry at that point. Everybody got an American Express card and went out and had lunch on the company, and then fiddled the expense reports for, business meetings, or you'd buy a lot of records, in those days CDs later on, and followed it as competitive product that you had to check up on. Yes, it was sort of a fool's paradise, but it was a good one for, I stayed there 13 long years, and I'm glad that I stepped out when I did, but in any case, I was having lunch at, the Mayflower Hotel. They had a good buffet. All you could eat for about $25. And this guy, I was talking about the Beastie Boys. I was very excited about them because I'd just been given their account, such as it was, and they were really exploding. The record had just come out. And this kid stepped up, a waiter, actually, in a whole suit and everything, and introduced himself, and it was Ricky Powell, who was doing part-time waiting at this hotel. And he said, I'm really good friends with them, and I can't believe you're talking about them. I know them very well. And we became good buddies. And I introduced him to Caroline, and, we spent a lot of time together. He was a really lovely person, and he was very sensitive to music, and he had great taste. What can I say? He was an inveterate New Yorker. Now, I think that the recent obit in the Times had a couple of errors, in fact, because they said that he'd lived for years in the West Village, but when I knew him, he was in the Stuyvesant projects over on extreme East 14th Street for some years. But I digress. Anyway, he just passed away. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and it's real sad. But Ricky was at my very first concert and took pictures there, and that's the picture in that poster. It was June 7th, 1988, and I recall it like it was yesterday. But anyway, where was I? You should avail yourself of this, and I'll post a link because you can stream it, you can purchase it as downloads, and you can purchase the CD, which is my favorite because you get a beautiful physical package courtesy of Steve Byram, great art director, award-winning art director, who was my confederate in crime for many years. We pulled a lot of capers at CBS Records together. We got stuff in there. I don't think they knew really what they were getting, but does anybody really know what they're getting? But if you get this CD, I promise, you will have a splendid audio experience. And all right, I'm chipping away at, this is an old English folk ballad known as Black Waterside. It's recorded by Bert Jansch on an amazing album called Jack Orion. But even more interesting to me is a version that Davy Graham recorded under the title She Moves Through the Fair. And eventually it kind of mutated into a song called White Summer that the Yardbirds, or actually Jimmy Page solo, put on their last album, Little Games. And it's similar, very similar, also good. And anyway, this is a lot of my acoustic playing, I have to say, is infused with many great acoustic players. But particularly, I love the English folk players and Scottish players, too, and Irish players. The Incredible String Band, I always cite them as my number one favorite album. If I'm asked to produce a top 10, I love the 5,000 Spirits album. Mike Herron and Robin Williamson, just as guitarists alone, were incredibly innovative, and their writing is spectacular in that album. It has been called the Sgt. Pepper of English folk, and quite rightly so. So please check that out. Nick Drake was great. There's a long list, long list. And I like the country blues guys as well. And I think I'll tune up for a last revisit here. Well, I got your attention. Thank you, Mark Green. Thank you so much for the wonderful lesson you took yesterday. And Mark wanted to learn Big-Eyed Beans from Venus from the Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band album Clear Spot. To many, his best, certainly the best produced of all of the Beefheart albums by the great Ted Templeman, who I happened to meet in the studio while we were doing Ice Cream for Crow. And Don had spoken kind of, as Don was his want, he had said some stuff about, production, because apparently he was ejected from the studio so they could get the work done in a way. As Don put it, sometimes I displace a lot of water, man. And he had his own idea of what it should sound like, and I think Ted Templeman wanted to go for something sonically that would sound like a hit. Now, contrast this with the Ice Cream for Crow album. I got with Jeff Morris Tepper, and discussed this before we went into the studio, and we both said, and also Robert Williams had mentioned this on the last one, great drummer. Like, we want Don to really focus on production because we want a competitive product that would stand up with similar, let's say, alternative groups in the day, including the B-52s, let's say, Talking Heads. These bands, a lot of them on Warner Brothers. Don had been on Warner Brothers. And there was something a little, I wouldn't say lackluster, but just astringent about the last few Beefheart albums. And so we tried to talk this over with Phil Brown, who was the engineer, and he had some ideas. And as soon as we got on there, Don was like, put the kibosh on that notion and said, I want this album to sound like a two-dimensional painting, or let's say a flat painting. You know, I don't really want to smother anything in heavy syrup and et cetera, et cetera. So that was an opportunity lost. But I think Ice Cream for Crow, the track, sounds pretty good, as does the whole last album, despite his prohibition on trying to use reverb units and a little bit of the room sound to enhance the overall resonant aura around the instruments on the record. But he had his own notions, you know, that were very painterly, if not downright quaint. Bittersweet, isn't it? Just like life, and twice as natural. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. What else? I wanted to say, Oscar Smith, thanks for the great review in Or magazine. They early on picked up on me, and the first classic shot, that courtesy of Anton Corbijn, great Dutch photographer, lived in England for a long time, did many books, very recognized fine photographer, now a movie director. Check out The American with George Clooney. And, of course, he did a great film about Ian Curtis, and I can't wait for his next one. That portrait of me, which was basically taken down by the old Christopher Street dock by a large puddle, and that's the cover of my album, my second album, Gods and Monsters. That first appeared in Word magazine, and I'm glad to be back in there. And thanks to Mirai Bauer for first doing a translation I'm going to post imminently. And I can't wait to get back to play for all of you guys, wherever you are. I can't wait. So in the meantime, please, everybody, stay safe. Wear that mask. Get vaccinated. I'm trying. My God, I just heard that Shea Stadium was starting tomorrow going to do 24-hour vaccinations, but the catch is you need to make an appointment. Good luck on the website that's up now, as far as the link I got, because every place I go just says no appointments available. But there are a lot of people in New York City to vaccinate. And, well, okay. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on Thursday. Take care. Love you guys. Bye now.